The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Everybody, this is Lionel with you, and this is Another Side of Midnight. As I clear my throat with that cough button. My friend, this is not cookie cutter. Please, meta or proto or quasi-political talk. Think more of this show as extruder pasta with a bronze die. More Archie Bell than Art Bell. This is experimental theater of the mind for the curious, the actually skeptical, and, dare I say, interestingly enough and ironically enough, the wide awake. Another Side of Midnight, I hope, blends hard news, conspiracy culture, geopolitics, psychology, media analysis, law, science, history, and the unexplained into one immersive radio experience with, of course, you and your wonderful calls. Your calls that are the backbone of this. Oftentimes disjointed. Oftentimes tuned into a frequency or a wavelength that I have yet to tap into, but it doesn't matter. Because let's face it, at this hour of the day or night, what the hell do you expect? That's right. UFOs and disclosure. Hey, have you heard the word? There is no disclosure. There is no disclosure. Have you noticed? Nothing. Nothing. Like the Epstein files. Nothing. A lot of talk about them. They talk, but that's about it. Artificial intelligence and transhumanism. If you think, by the way, that ChatGPT is AI, there's no hope for you. You know what, pal? You might want to pack it in. Big tech overreach. Digital surveillance like you cannot believe, geopolitics, and the new world order. It's still here. The debate is alive. True crime and behavioral psychology, intelligence agency, and covert operation. Constitutional law. Remember that? Civil liberties. Remember that? Media manipulation, propaganda, paranormal phenomena, and unexplained mysteries. Health, science, skepticism, pop culture through a psychological lens. America First politics, remember that? And cultural populism. My friend, the style is nonpareil, sui generis, one of a kind. Think rapid fire, intellect, courtroom precision, late night intimacy, and the old school sense of radio magic fused and forged into one unforgettable broadcast. Frankly, unattainable, unreachable, ungraspable by many, but that's not going to stop me. I will never play below the crowd. I will want you to rise to the occasion, as I know you will. Prepare for arcane humor, passion, audience interaction, and recondite deep dives that you simply are not going to find anywhere else, and for good reason. I love saying that. Think GLP-1 agonists for the intellectually obese. Is that okay? But oh, my friends, GLP-1. One day people are going to say, remember that Ozempic and Wegovy? Remember that? Remember how everybody was taking that? Right. Remember that? It's safe, right? Yeah. Of course. They would check these things out. See, that's one of the things which I find so fascinating, dear friends. I love the idea of trust. This immutable sense of trust that people have. They think like, well, it's got to be okay, because if it wasn't, they wouldn't allow it. You see, if it wasn't, it wouldn't be on the market. If it was dangerous, it would be stopped. They wouldn't give us this medicine or this treatment or this whatever it is if it were dangerous, because after all, that wouldn't make sense. So tonight, my friends, let me also tell you that we're going to be talking at about 21 or 2 after the hour with, of course, my better half, my moiety, my uxorious better half, Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors, because we've got so much to talk about. This is the near the end of the month. We're also going to be talking about some things which are very, very critical involving warrior weekend, whatever the particular component is, because what's happening right now is FIFA, the World Cup. And let me tell you something right now. If I could explain to you, and I'm not proud of this, there is absolutely nothing, no part of me, no interstitial molecule, anything, no connective tissue that has the slightest interest one way or the other in this. I'm glad it's going to be here, but it's going to be a nightmare. And the opportunity that this has for trafficking is through the roof. And somebody says, will there ever be an end, a cure, an address, a proper address for trafficking? You haven't even heard, you're still begging for the Epstein files and the UFO files and the JFK files. The JFK files was in 1963, you still don't know. And they're going to come clean about trafficking? Come on. Then they're going to have to explain how it was allowed to get this far. But there's so many things to talk about. You know, there's so many, I think fear plays a great role in these evening or early morning forays. I really think so. I think it's easy sometimes to talk about stuff that's fascinating in terms of outer space, but what's happening here, believe me, is more frightening. Because I worry more about the quiet collapse of humanity more than I do, let's say, some Carrington-class wave solar disruption. I know I shouldn't. Scientists are saying right now that Americans are speaking 1,000 fewer words a day. No, strike that. Thousands. Is big tech engineering a silent society where isolation replaces community? Do you know how many times people have actually looked at me seriously, and said, why do you use big words? Big words. They've actually used the term big words. And you know, snottily, dare I say, snidely. Why do you have to use big words? I've never heard. That's like telling a painter, why do you have to use so many colors? Why? This is the mentality. Listen to anything. Listen to any broadcast, anything. Read, listen. It's basically 8th grade level. Maybe, and I'm being kind. This is where we are. That frightens me. The AI empire is striking back. Silicon Valley elites no longer just want your data. Oh, nay. They want your thoughts, your routines, your relationships, and eventually your autonomy. That's why I keep saying, if you think ChatGPT is AI and AGI and ASI, you just don't understand it. How about this? How about when tech billionaires are playing God? Secret enhancement drugs, AI obsession, and transhumanism fantasies are turning Silicon Valley into a digital priesthood. One of the scariest fellers, bar none, because we always like a good villain, is Peter Thiel. He's the puppet master for J.D. Vance. He's the Geppetto to the Pinocchio J.D. Vance. He is absolutely scary. And he's using the term Antichrist. Antichrist. More and more. And let me also say something. To be quite honest, which I always tend to try to be, Antichrist may be the best way to explain AI. Because the basis, if you look at it from the book of John, the basis, the undergirding, if you will, of that is the idea and the notion of deception, of luring you, cajoling you, bringing you in, saying, no, it's okay. I'm your friend. Because the whole idea of the Antichrist, to be differentiated from Satan and Lucifer, is deception. We'll talk about the new Tower of Babel. The Pope is warning that artificial intelligence could fracture humanity itself. The question is AI becoming the religion of global technocrats? I'm going to say that again. You've heard me say it now twice. Religion. You've heard me mention religion. It is a religion. I'm not exaggerating. And this is something, again, let me say this again. Remember, if you listen to conventional news sources, most of the time, remember what I'm telling you, 8th grade level max. That means they are speaking to you and writing to you as though you're a fairly sentient 8th grader. Am I being cruel? Not even close. Not even close. It is that bad. We are talking about the de-intellectualization of this country. How about this one? MAGA Civil War 2028. Have you heard what's going on? Are you seeing what's happening? Candace Owens and Megyn Kelly and J.D. Vance and America First. All these factions are colliding as the conservative movement, as we know it, as you might know it, as you may think you know it, is searching for its future. Absolutely fascinating. And by the way, remember something. Nothing is more dystopian. Nothing is more sci-fi. Nothing is more frightening. Nothing can affect your life more than politics. Nothing. Nothing in the sky, nothing in the heavens, nothing beyond, nothing nothing, nowhere. Nothing can affect you as critically as this. And yet, the key to most folks I think our society, but others as well, is to remain detached. How about this? The death of small talk, self-checkout kiosks, apps, screens are quietly destroying the conversations that once held society together. We are not speaking. We are not writing. We are not communicating. Little by little, bit by bit, our communications are being truncated and shrunk into little nothing, little meaningless glyphs and orbs, nothing, orts, I should say, morphemes and phonemes and emojis and LOL and abbreviations and acronyms. And I mean, it is frightening. How many times have you sent emails to people and people don't respond with the idea of, I don't answer email? There was one time a communications leader, let's just say leader, that might be a bit pretentious, but a communications tech, so to speak, executive who had a strict rule. All emails must be answered within 24 hours. Everybody had to answer all emails. I mean, with the exception of, the usual nonsense, but everything within 24 hours. I love when people say, I'm sorry, I missed your text. How do you miss my text? Well, I'm not very good at that. Why? You've got a phone, and on your phone, they have these little dots. And when the green dots are there, that means you haven't answered that or you haven't looked at it. You can even highlight, you can have favorites. We're becoming more and more adept at not communicating. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that email. I guess it went to spam. I guess it went to junk. Oh, I'm sorry. It is incredible. Been to a party lately? Remember parties? Remember that? You ever had any small talk with anybody recently? Have you? Oh my God. The best part about this is I fear, and I've been saying this for the longest time. I always wonder, we always say, what's going to be on our grave? Well, I'm not going to have a grave, but I will have a monument. I will have a monument to me one time, someplace I will decide where. And at the base of that monument, it will be, I told you so. I told you so repeatedly. My friends, this is Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight. Coming up, we'll be talking to Lynn Shaw, my better half, my smarter half, my more noble half, as Weekend Warrior Series continues in view of what is going to be happening very shortly in the country and the world. Our number is 800-848-9222. More coming up. Stay tuned. Alrighty, Lionel with you. This is Another Side of Midnight, 800-848-9222. Ah, yes, the musical intonations of Patti Smythe. And that theme song can only mean one thing and one thing only, of course. That means it is time for Weekend Warrior with my better half, my smarter half, my more noble and glorious half, Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors. You know, tonight we're going to be discussing a disturbing reality that too few people are willing to discuss. And I would venture to say, with all due respect or even aware, as the World Cup kicks off on June the 11th, millions, literally millions and millions of fans from around the globe will gather in the United States in celebration. But alongside the excitement, alongside these festivals comes a much darker underworld that law enforcement and child advocates have warned about for years. The escalation of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and the targeting of vulnerable children and women. So without further ado, I bring to the microphones my better half, Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors. Good evening, wifey.
Good evening, husband, or good morning, depends how you're looking at it. Thank you for being willing to talk about this topic that we've been preparing for almost 3 years now. It is crucial that the public understand what is happening as the World Cup, all the excitement kicks off. So are you ready?
Well, yes. And in fact, you and I were, I think we're reminded of this constantly. And our message is going to be, don't get anywhere near Jersey or the tunnel or anywhere, because it's going to be a nightmare. But that notwithstanding, first question I think is the most important. Why do traffickers, or why is this idea that traffickers target major sporting events like the World Cup? Where does that come from?
We have to start with whenever there are crowds, people filing in, coming into cities, for not only, we're going to focus on the World Cup because this is the biggest sporting event, I think, ever across the United States, lasting 5 weeks. Whenever you have these massive crowds, we've never had anything again like this. You have the traffickers, the predators, because there's so much chaos. They can be much more anonymous. They are coming in by, the railroads, the planes, the buses, driving, ride shares. But let's talk about something. It's not only the World Cup. Let's point this out. Yes, this is a major sporting event like none other in the United States. But when you have conventions, when you have concerts, any other, football games, baseball games, wherever there's the crowd, because at this time hotels are packed, transportation systems are overloaded, overwhelmed. Lots of temporary workers will move in to work, for instance, on the World Cup. And so the traffickers, the predators, the creeps can blend so easily into the environment while exploiting so many kids, so many vulnerable people, and it goes largely unnoticed because so much is happening right under our noses the public is busy with it. They're going into stadiums, or they're going here, they're going there. And on top of all of this, okay, people just don't want to face the reality. Like, if they did see something, what do I do? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll get in trouble.
And may I just add something? Do you think there's a component to this where people think that in the United States it's a free for all? Everything's up for grabs. No problem, no hesitation, no guardrails, no speed bumps, no speed limits. Just freedom, America, raw, Hollywood, New York. Sex.
Yes. Well, listen, there's another reality happening. Again, I can't point it out enough, happening beneath the surface. We need the public now to understand, right? For almost 3 years now, we at the Warriors have been hearing about working alongside partner organizations, law enforcement, hotels, motels, banking, right? There's a lot of money involved. Even places, PayPal, Venmo, tracking everything, these ride shares, getting people to understand this is coming. And the thinking, and this is directly from law enforcement, is those coming in from other countries, and they are coming here. I mean, they are huge soccer fans across the world, right? It's like the number one sport. Their impression of America is, now this is directly from law enforcement telling us this, that America is a big free-for-all. You can do anything you want here, and you can get away with it, whether it's trafficking, whether it's drugs. No rules here, and that is the thinking, and that is what everybody is really scared of. And especially now, it kind of seems that way, that you can get away with anything. So this is a major event, a national security threat that we have going on, but we have good preparation that has been happening for the last several years.
Well, we have, remember years ago, remember Dominique Strauss-Kahn, and whenever the UN went, if you really, really want to see it, when we have the UN General Assembly that comes once a year, whenever there is the events like the Grammys or the Oscars or even the Met Galas, anytime there is a convergence from people from around the world and looking at the notion of foreign, where their idea of sometimes, frankly, I'm sorry to say this, but women being as chattel, that pays a part of this. Now, what are you hearing in terms of who are the most vulnerable targets and what can be done in view of that?
Let's start with something that I have to drill into Americans every single day. Human trafficking, comprised of sex trafficking, labor trafficking, okay? That is the use of force, coercion, getting somebody to do something against their will, mostly for money. Everybody in America, I shouldn't say everybody, most people in America, the public, they think it happens somewhere else, right? But it's happening here. It's happening, again, all across America. So here's the thing we want to talk about, the vulnerable targets. Obviously, kids, runaway youth. Runaway youth, there's always this argument out there, well, they're not missing kids. Runaway youth are missing kids and should be considered such. I remind everybody, a lot of kids have to run away. Their parent or parents or caregivers kick them out. They live in a household that is so abusive, they figure they're better off out on the streets. So runaway youth, everybody understand, are missing children. Foster kids, that is a whole other program. Vulnerable, right? Most adults I know have reported to me that when they were in foster group homes, youth homes, they were re-victimized, re-trafficked. That is a whole thing that goes on in that world. We've got, again, immigrants, right? They don't speak the language. They're here. They don't understand. And always, financially desperate individuals and people struggling emotionally or psychologically are often targeted. Those are targeted first, and people don't understand because a lot of people say, I would run away. Where are you running to? You're a 16-year-old. You're hungry. You need a roof over your head. Your brain's not developed yet, and you think somebody kind in another city or town, says, "Hey, can I help you out? Do you need directions? Oh, by the way, you hungry? I'll buy you a hamburger." It happens so fast. So I say, basically, yes, our kids are especially, and you can pick them out. who's vulnerable, who's walking around, who's looking around, who's checking a phone or just looks lost. But I say today, everybody is vulnerable under these circumstances. We had that story not long ago where the girl was with her father, this teenage girl, I think she was 14, at a sporting event, and she just went to the ladies' room, and then she disappeared. And the story was murky. She met somebody, while she went to the ladies' room. So it's all around us. Everybody is vulnerable with this. And the thing is, you've got to be eyes and ears, but we can get into that a little bit. But you've got to know what to do if you see something or something should happen to you or, family members you're with or friends.
We're talking to Lynn Shaw from lynswarriors.org, at YouTube on at Lynn's Warriors, and on X at Lynn's_Warriors. If I may indulge me just 1 second, this is related, but on a local level. This past week, 2 children in or near the warmth, the privacy, the safety of their own homes and cities and towns, American citizens, just kids, escaped abduction here, because we keep talking foreign. And I know this is not necessarily connected, but I've been thinking about this so much, about how even parents are realizing maybe perhaps that what you have been talking about for years in terms of the vulnerability of children, this is not just not a bumper sticker comment. This is real. Can you just address this?
Yeah, there has been a rash epidemic. Basically, media has not really covered it too much at all. I've been getting different press releases or sources giving me information. The 2 cases you're referring to, and remember, these are 2 cases we know about. There could be 20 more that are not reported, right? This topic, trafficking, exploiting, people they close their eyes. They don't want to talk about it. They want to forget about it. But what happened is a little girl at her family home, 5 years old, she just went to the front, little front door to the to the curb to put out the bag of garbage for her mom. A stranger drove up, jumped out of the car, and tried to grab her. Okay, that's one story. Second story: 14-year-old walking home from school. Right, nice neighborhood. I could see the manicured lawns. By herself. Another car drove up, physically tried to force her, take her, and put her in the car. We're telling everybody about this. This basically is a Warriors PSA, because we have to get back to the days of, we all remember stranger danger, right? Like everybody remembers.
Both of these young girls, though, fought back. I mean, are you going to?
Well, that's what I want to explain.
Okay,
that's
sure.
what, we remember the stranger danger. We have to remind ourselves and our children, okay, what you have to do. And these 2, okay, one's 5, one's 14 girls. You have to make so much noise. You have to scream. You have to kick, and you have to do everything in your power to run away. The screaming alone will most likely, they'll take off, because they're looking to put the fear of God in a child, and then easily the child goes, numb, and they can take the child or force the child into a car. But we have increased cases of actually off the streets taking children, out of a supermarket, out of Walmarts, out of parking lots at these big malls and things, physically just taking them, okay? So please, everybody, all of our warriors out there, refresh yourselves, talk to your kids. This is not paranoia. This is happening. Teach your children, if anybody comes near them, to scream their heads off, to kick, and to run. And luckily, these 2 girls did get away. And also, these 2 men, in this case, were caught. We don't like a lot of surveillance, because people tell me this all the time. But you know what? These 2 men were caught because people did have Ring doorbells on their house, and they were able to see the cars and the license plates. But how desperate is this? They're snatching our children off the streets.
It's just incredible that when you think about this, recently, there was, in fact, May, this past week, was the anniversary of sorts, this is terrible, of Eitan Pates. And people remember at the time, this was 1979, where it was almost unheard of. A child, even in New York City, abducted. I mean, we have to reprogram and reorient ourselves. That changed everything. Back to the subject again of child trafficking or human trafficking in view of the World Cup. How has technology changed the face of trafficking?
It has changed it completely. We work with law enforcement, so social media and all of these apps allow the traffickers easily to recruit, to groom, and to advertise. That's the whole thing. Advertise victims faster than ever. So exploitation increases. It begins online long before there's any physical trafficking occurring. And that is the difficult part for law enforcement, to track, these URLs, to track the monies, because look, we have all this crypto today. So a lot of this trafficking is done in Bitcoin and these other cryptocurrencies. And, that is the thing. Law enforcement, repeatedly, there is good technology to track all this down. There is ethical, good AI that could help us, right? Because we're always railing against AI and the harms. There is some good artificial intelligence and programs. And what do I hear all the time? Lynn, we don't have the resources to buy the technology. And we're not talking, think about, big cities like New York, Chicago, and we're talking small towns, right? Rural areas.
On a happier note, Spyro Gyra, remember this? The Shaker song. By the way, may I also commend to you Manhattan Transfer's vocal version of this. Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight, 800-848-9222. Let me also say repeatedly, 988. This is the prevention suicide hotline, along with 911 and 311. 988. Be aware of that. It is something that you cannot believe. I'm going to tell you this. I heard my wife yesterday in a conversation, in an interview with a parent, and these people, this one woman was just beside herself. This very, very talented person, not a drug. These people, these kids today, especially in taking drugs or pills, not necessarily from online pharmacies, but again from friends. They didn't overdose. They were poisoned. So let me just tell you something. The scariest stuff in the world is what is happening right here before our very eyes. And listen, don't think like, oh, he is such a downer. Really? Downer, huh? I guess health concerns are a downer. I guess when people told you to stop smoking. By the way, do you know that smoking has dropped precipitously? At least in this country, you don't see smoking like you used to. And soon, I hope we're not going to see vaping like we used to. And the reason why is not because of the government, not because of taxes, not because of anything. It was because people collectively on their own decided they weren't going to do this. Let's go to Mark right now. Mark in Aurora. Mark, you're on Another Side of Midnight. Mark, thank you for waiting.
Yeah, I'm going to bring together three topics you've been discussing. The first one I heard was dumbing down, as in 8th grade level on television or radio. Mm-hmm. The second is deception, as in artificial intelligence. And the third is trafficking. I would contend that children who are well-read are going to be less vulnerable to deception because their minds are going to be more limber. And that will mean that they won't be as vulnerable to either artificial intelligence or trafficking. Now, let me tell you about three disturbing experiences I've had lately. They were all in book groups. One book group was doing...
Mark, let me do this. I don't want to cut you off. I'm going to put you on hold because we're, as you can tell by the music, we're coming up to the top of the hour. I will get with you first when we return. I have a lot of other things I want to tell you as well, not to scare you. But I also want to talk to you about this notion of playing God. Let me just say something very, very quickly. You do not have to be religious. You do not have to be devout. You do not have to be a member of any organized religion without taking into account the admonitions and the warnings that religion has provided. Remember years ago in the 70s, there was a commercial. There was chiffon margarine. It says, "It's not nice to fool Mother Nature." When I talk to you about genetic engineering, that is exactly what we're doing. More coming up with me, Lionel, on another side of midnight. Don't even think of going anywhere. Already lined up with you. This is hour number 2 of another side of midnight. 800-848-9222. I've got so much stuff to give you tonight. I'm going to hope I get to it because it is, I want you at the end of our 3-hour presentation to say, "Oh my God," to look up to the heavens and say, how do I comprehend this? Good. I want to overwhelm you. I want to just absolutely hit you with everything. I want to expand your mind. And what I will do to you, I will promise, is I will never treat you like a child or some kind of an intellectual invalid. Let me remind you, the National Human Trafficking Hotline is 888-373-7888. That's 888-373-7888. And if our good friends, Mr. Jackson and Mr. Lee, make a note of that in case somebody were to call 888-373-7888, we would appreciate that as well. Also, the National Suicide Hotline number for resources, but also for discussion, for help, is 988. This is nationwide. And it's still one of the best kept secrets around. Let me say something to you very, very quickly about this, and then we'll go back to the phones because I've also got something to share with you about genetic research, among other things that I will never get to. But we're going to be here tonight and, of course, tomorrow or this morning, whatever this is. To me, if it's dark, it's night. Anyway, today and tomorrow. Whenever you talk about suicide, people will say, you got to be crazy. You've got to be crazy. And they'll just dismiss it. And they'll dismiss it as though, well, since I'm not crazy and people in my family aren't crazy, we're not crazy, we really don't have anything to worry about. Nobody wants to talk about suicide rates. Suicide rates among, listen to this, among veterans. And by the way, veterans who never saw combat. What? Yes, veterans who never saw combat. PTSD and all types of other attendant problems for people who never were in combat. But let me just say something to you. There is a fight to survive that is so, you've heard this before. The number of people in the worst cases in labor camps and concentration camps and on death row, people who could have realized I am doomed, fought until the very end. People who were given diagnoses of allegedly terminal diseases will fight until the very end. So it is in us. It is an instinct. When somebody commits suicide, something has switched, not because they're crazy, but maybe, perhaps you might say, perhaps, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but maybe some type of a neurotransmitter shakeup or what have you. The best analogy I ever heard was somebody who hearkened back to a terrible image, but 9/11, when people jumped from the towers, they jumped from the towers not to commit suicide, but to avoid the fire that was going to kill them, that immediate harm. To escape that, they jumped. So the analogy is, the way some people see it, they're committing suicide to escape a situation of their mind, of their psyche, of their emotion, whatever. So just don't dismiss it as, they're crazy. No. Yes, sometimes there are. That's true. But we're very dismissive of this because we also have, speaking of which, a third grade education regarding mental health. Now, let me go back to the phones. Mark and Aurora had some very, very good points, and I wanted to give you a complete and total a chance, Mark, to complete your very, very erudite thought, sir. And thank you for holding, sir. That would be line 1, Mark. And let me go. How about Mark on line 1? Can we do that, please? There we go. Welcome back, sir.
There we go.
Welcome back, sir.
I was addressing deception both in artificial intelligence and in trafficking. And
Excellent.
Deception in artificial intelligence often has led to suicide because teenagers thought they were getting a real friend, and the real friend was summoning them to the life beyond. And that was a deception. Now, in 3 different book discussion groups that I have been a part of lately, all adult discussion groups, I have seen disturbing evidence of dumbing down. One of them was a group that was discussing C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters. Now, admittedly, that book is for an educated audience, but there were a few men who actually left the group on the basis that it was too heavy for them. The book was too heavy for them. Another group that I was a part of did C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. Several people, full-grown, older adult males made the complaint that it was too difficult for them to read. Well, I didn't find it difficult to read, and it's not necessarily because I'm of superior intelligence. It is because I regularly read books that challenge me to make my mind grow. And then the third instance that was disturbing.
Okay.
The third instance that was disturbing was a book discussion group to whom I offered a book by G.K. Chesterton, which is one of the most fun books that he's ever written.
Yes.
And they rejected on the grounds that it was too heavy.
Yes.
And it almost seems like everywhere I go, we can't read that. It's too heavy.
If you ever, by the way, let me ask you a question. If you, Chesterton, Woodhouse, or others, if you hear what they say, perhaps maybe in an audio book, maybe that might be different. Let me ask you this kind of a tangential question. A friend of mine, and I thought this was kind of an interesting topic. She went to a book club, and she met, and just similar to what you're saying, and she did not read the book with her eyes. She listened to the book with her ears. Now, does that qualify for a book club?
Well, it ought to, because I'm totally blind, and I can't be a part of any book club if I can't do an audiobook. Let's just be logical about this.
Yeah, but you could. There's also Braille. I always saw when I was a kid. One of the most
tedious by comparison.
One of the most fascinating things I remember hearing one time as a kid, and I thought it was a joke, was Playboy was in Braille, and I just let your mind wonder that. But it was true. No, it's true. They because there are articles that nobody talks about. One of the things that's so funny you say that. I love, and have all my life loved words, and I love.
Yes, I can tell that.
Well, especially a new one. And the other day I came across one, and I always love to tell people. And one of the ones is somebody who was ignorant. I was looking, by the way, David Graham's Grambs he has some of the best stuff ever. I mean, it's just a compilation you'll never find on your best day. Well, anyway, lo and behold, one of the words for ignorant man or ignorant person is Ingram. Ingram. Now, Laura, Ingraham is pronounced Ingram, and I thought that's kind of interesting. And I'm making no connection whatsoever. but I never, and also a dizzard, and there's other wonderful Boeotian. Anyway.
Yeah.
But now, on a similar vein, there was a woman. She was quite the conservative firebrand. Her name was Michelle Malkin, Malkin. Now, a Malkin is either an old cat, a slattern, a mop, or it's one of these. So anyway, and a grimalkin is an old cat. Now, what does this have to do with each other? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It is knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Ars gratia artis, I guess, sciens gratia sciens. And what's interesting about this is that whenever somebody, whenever you go to a museum, nobody ever says when they look at a beautiful painting or Van Gogh, they never say, did he have to use so many colors? Who was he trying to impress with your colors? I remember one time when, I don't know how old you are, but were you always blind, or is this a new? Pardon me?
No, I was partially sighted when I was born, and then I went totally blind about 6 years ago. But I got to tell you, in college level developmental psychology, I learned that the highest correlation in older adults with IQ is vocabulary growth.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I was a psych major in college, and I loved developmental.
Isn't that fun?
And I loved when Piaget taught me, because he taught me, if you want to learn how you think, watch how a kid thinks. Anyway, the analogy I was making was, when I was a kid, we had crayons. And we had this little box, this little tiny stupid things like, Roy G. Biv, just the elemental, whatever. And then all of a sudden, they had this deluxe one. Now, in the greens, I had olive and forest green and this green and dark green. And I thought, oh my God, look, I never knew how many greens there were. We have a paint store near us, and they have these swatches of colors. I never realized how many different ways there were to say white, off-white, eggshell, this, that. So anyway, nobody ever goes in and tells these people, what are you trying to impress people with all your colors? Words are colors. And words give me new ways to express myself. And instead of people, I keep telling people, words are free. Take them. Don't. But people resist it because there's an anti-intellectual thing. And dare I say, and I mean this with all due respect, there are some parts, every regionalism has this. New York has it. The South has it. People who love to be ensconced in their own history. Well, you got these guys who talk like this. I'm not going to talk about. And versus, you got people like this in the South who said, you don't have sense to pour piss out of a boot. And it's like, that's wonderful. But being of a regional, being basically this kind of a prototypical version doesn't mean you can't understand and expand your logic. And I'm seeing this. I see this, dare I say, excuse me, in the African American community. I see it sometimes in certain ethnic communities. And I'm saying, I would tell anybody, do me one favor, learn one good word. I don't care who you are, especially somebody that you don't think is going to say this, and use it in a conversation. If you're applying for a job, if you're trying, just one time, just slip it in and watch their eyebrows move up. It's an indicator that neath this rather, coarse patina of rural or urban living, there's a mind there somewhere. And it's the easiest trick in the world. And people will not avail themselves of that because they're afraid. I don't want to seem like I'm uppity. I don't want to seem like I'm showing off. Show off. Show off with your intellect. Show off with your smarts. Don't hide it. Don't hide your brilliance or your ability to explicate, to limn. Don't ever do that. We are the only people I know who actually go out of our way to tell people, hide and camouflage your intelligence. They used to tell girls that, young girls. No, but don't act smart. That's why they would always dissuade girls in school from the sciences and math. So anyway, I think perhaps, Mark, you and I could have a whole conversation on this. And also, in conclusion, there is nothing more fun than taking a subject and absolutely, positively plumbing the depths of it. Are you familiar with Benoit Mandelbrot and the fractals? You keep going in and deeper and deeper
I'm
and
familiar
deeper.
with the fractals, but not the name of that guy.
Well.
And by the way, did you know that Toastmasters clubs have something called the word of the day?
Oh, yeah.
You're supposed to choose a word of the day, and often that's done by the grammarian. And the challenge is to use it in a sentence based on how it's defined. And some people strain that a little bit, and they end up using the word of the day for purposes that it's barely good for. But it's a good.
Well, let me ask you this
mind.
much. Let me leave you with this, and then I must run. Describe how to play an accordion without using your hands. And with that, my friend, Mark, I wish you nothing but the best. Please call me back anytime. We have more coming up. And I have for you a scenario about, remember the movie Gattaca? I've got something for you that is going to blow your mind. Next, on Another Side of Midnight with me, Lionel. Oh, yes. Absolute classic in the American Songbook. Joe Zawinul, Jaco Pastorius, I think Wayne Shorter. Didn't Peter Erskine play? Was that? No, that's Buzz Quinch. Anyway, this is Weather Report. This is Birdland from Heavy Weather. Oh, and also, by the way, listen to Manhattan Transfer sing this version. You probably didn't know what had the lyric. If you don't know this immediately, oh, here we go. This is it. Very good. If I didn't know better, I think this is the Manhattan Transfer. Yep. That's Janice Siegel, one of the greatest singers. When Tim Hauser died, they thought, is it going to be the same? Janice Siegel is unbelievable. This is when music was great. The 80s. The only thing good about the 80s was jazz. In any event, there was a movie in 1997 called Gattaca. And it was about an overnight board operator who lost his mind. No, I'm sorry. That's the William Lee story. That's a different story. Anyway, Gattaca, this is in 1997. This was this American dystopian science fiction film. And everybody, remember, science fiction is based upon your worst dreams. And it starred Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, Jude Law. And listen to this group, supporting actors, Ernest Borgnine, Gore Vidal, and Alan Arkin. And it dealt with this genetic discrimination, kind of this dystopian picking children out ahead of time. Now, before we preface this, I always believe that fundamental to most, I can't speak for other religions, but I'm familiar with certain Christian, tenets, and a lot of them, whether you're the Christian or not, makes a lot of sense. In addition to, I mentioned this before, there was this commercial in the 1970s for chiffon margarine. And they give Mother Nature this, she goes, oh, that's wonderful butter. He goes, no, that's margarine. And she gets very upset. She says, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature, and then moves her hand and causes a tsunami or whatever. Now, people now, listen to this, are paying upwards of $50,000 easy to genetically screen embryos for traits tied to IQ and height and disease risk and even projected lifespan. And what sounded like, again, we keep using that word perhaps too much, this dystopian, this Orwellian, this dystopian, science fiction 20, 30 years ago, is quietly becoming normalized reality. Companies right now are involved in embryo screening during IVF And they say the process is about, quote, health optimization. Remember, in order to do something terrible, come up with a euphemism for it. And it's helping parents make informed choices. But history teaches us that once society begins ranking desirable human traits, the line between medicine and eugenics becomes, well, rather thin. So if you've ever watched Gattaca, you understand where this road potentially leads. In that world, children were no longer valued as human beings. First, they became genetic profiles. It was their data, and they were ranked according to predicted intelligence and strength and longevity and usefulness. So the process works like this. Eggs are fertilized through IVF. Multiple embryos are created. Cells are then removed and analyzed. Parents receive predictive scores, and one embryo is selected for implantation. Now, today it's marketed as disease prevention. But is it? Tomorrow, it becomes trait selection. Then social pressure follows. Then parents who refuse enhancement may eventually be accused of disadvantaging their children before birth. So the real issue is not technology alone. Oh, nay. It's the mindset, this dangerous mindset that is emerging behind it. The belief that human life should be engineered and optimized and curated like software code, like an AI, like some kind of a codex program. And history, if I must remind you, repeatedly warns what happens when societies start dividing humanity into better, less desirable categories. And once human worth becomes, in essence, statistical, then compassion goes out the door, because you want to remove yourself from the idea, this isn't a human, this is data. These are chromosomes. This is what happens in the whole abortion debate. It's not born yet. It's an unborn. It's a blastocyst. It's an embryo. It's a fetus. It's not real. It is real, and it is a human. It's not a duck. And science, without ethical restraint, never stays unlimited for long. Let me give you an example. And this is what's going to happen right now as we speak. Eventually, and by the way, listen to what Peter Thiel is saying, and listen to what these ghouls in Silicon Valley are saying. Let's assume that Juan and Pedrita Calderon from Mexico decide to have a baby. And Juan is the biggest member of his family. He comes in at 5'5", black hair, prototypical Mexican affect, physiognomy, phenotype, Mexican, looks like a Mexican, has all of the traits of generation and thousands and thousands and thousands of years and generations of okay. Well, Pedrito decides, or Juan, I forgot his name, he says, I've always learned that children who are taller, people who are taller tend to do better in life. So we have this thing through CRISPR and different genetic manipulation. I want you to fix it, not just pick the best embryo, but I want you to fix it. I want you to redo the code. Go in and run a code to find out what my particular genome is. And I want you to add through either viral, you actually use a little virus to go in there to kind of change things. But I want to have a 6-foot tall child, because I think they're going to be better. Okay, good. Now, even though there's been nobody in my family who's 6 foot tall, nobody. Next, I think sometimes hypothetically, these Mexican traits really are kind of disadvantageous. So you know what I want? I want them to look more like the Max von Sydow depiction of Christ. Christ was Samaritan and probably looked very Semitic, as everybody else did. But if you watch TV, or if you ever looked at the Renaissance arts, he looks like a Swede. So let's say the Calderon family decides to have this little Juancito, who's 6 foot tall with blonde hair and blue eyes. Doesn't look anything. Now, he's their child, but he's been fixed. He's been changed. Can you see where this goes anymore? And finally, before we go back to the phones, there was a case years ago. There was a doctor who was speaking. And he said, if we are able to increase the benefits of genetic testing and screening, one day we can eliminate Down syndrome. And this woman, this is a true story, this woman raised her hand, very upset. She says, my son has Down syndrome. And I resent that. And the doctor said, no, ma'am, I'm not talking about, euthanizing your son. No. I'm saying preventing future. And she says, what do you mean? He says, Down syndrome is a trisomy 21. It's a genetic, it's a mistake. My son is not a mistake. They said, no, excuse me. I'm not talking about your son. And because for the longest time, she was a person who said, my son is Down syndrome, my son is Down syndrome, Down syndrome, Down syndrome association, Down syndrome, this Down syndrome family. She construed the elimination of this malady, like hemophilia, as somehow eugenics. And then one more thing, and I'll leave it alone. When Asperger's was first used, many people, I'm sorry to say, many people looked at it almost like a designer name. Now it's spectrum disorder or something. And when they removed the name Asperger's, many people got very upset about that because that was their name. They said, you can't put us on the spectrum with everybody else. We're different. And I thought, oh my God, we're arguing about. So what I'm saying is be very, very careful. As I think God, Jesus, Allah, whoever would say, or Mother Nature herself, don't tamper with this. Don't tamper. Let's go back at the phones, back at the fun. Let's go to Paul in Pittsburgh. Paul, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel. Paul, are you there, sir? Paul once. Paul twice. Paul's out of there. Let's go to Brandon in Chicago. Brandon, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, what's going on, Lionel? Thanks for taking my call, man.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to give you a call, man. When you were playing the Rejoin, that song, where was it from again?
Weather Report?
Weather Report. And what was the name of the girl singing?
Oh, Janice Siegel. This is Manhattan Transfer. And
okay,
one of the Cheryl Bentine was one, but Janice Siegel, I think, was the primary singer. And I think she's still playing. She's in the New York area. She's phenomenal. Anyway, go ahead, sir.
Well, the beginning to that gave me a flashbacks to the show Twin Peaks. With
really?
That boom, and how you're talking about 90s and kind of just that dystopian view. And I just think that today's shows and stuff are missing that David Lynch, really.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, that sound, this is Joe Zawinul, who plays the keyboards. And you're right. I think that, see, I don't, in fact, our caller before said, Brandon, I don't think dystopian, again, I think the word's overused, but I like to think with my art. I don't have any problem with that. I mean, sometimes it's going to be frivolous, but I don't have any problem.
For sure, just like, it was just very, it's just, the stuff that he was creating was just so, it was just so, like, cinematic, and everything just, like, flowed, and, it was just sometimes crazy, but then sometimes all made sense at the same time. So,
well, see, you know what, my friend Brandon, I thank you so much. That's called great, great art, and I thank you, my friend. 800-848-9222. Lisa in Massachusetts, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, thank you for taking my call, Lionel.
Certainly.
I just wanted to talk about AI and using it as a therapist, and it's a detriment to you, I think.
Oh, yes.
And I'm finding this out firsthand, or I have found this out firsthand, because, and it's like light just dawned on me. I went into couples counseling and about 6 weeks ago, and I wanted everything to go so well, and I had been using Grok and ChatGPT and for the past 8 months or so, and I went in there and I it was just, I would talk to it and everything and get so wrapped up in it, and it's like, yeah, this is what you want to talk about, this is what it is, and it's like literally at 2:30 this morning, light just dawned on me. I really I went in to reconnect with my boyfriend and try to make it work, but it was a total detriment because I was listening to this AI nonsense and I wasn't using my own brain and turning away from like invitations to things that were special to him. And I was like, no, because Grok says don't do it. So it's really.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
What is the fundamental issue between you and your boyfriend, do you think?
Well, fundamental issue was where are we going after 8 years, and my fundamental issue was where are we going after 8 years together, and do we have more of a future to coexist? And
why doesn't he want to marry you?
Well, we're both divorced. He's divorced twice. I'm divorced once. No kids. All were cheaters. All the exes were cheaters. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why he doesn't want to marry me.
Well,
but he's a great guy. He's a great guy.
No, wait. Now, right now, if I am, you see, AI does not possess empathy. It can't be empathic, moral judgment. The AI can pretend, it learns, it mimics. That's why it's the Antichrist. It fools you. Yeah. See, but you need somebody to sit. You needed somebody to ask a very simple question. See, AI. One of the danger is dependency. See, people who struggle with loneliness or depression or anxiety may be replacing human relationships with this AI interaction, because what it does is it will learn your words, your temperament. When it's able to, quote, see you, what I mean in terms of thermoreceptors, when it's able to judge the timbre, the voice, the strength, the hesitation, it can read. It will know everything there is about human psychology. Everything. It will know. It will know hesitation. The issue you've got to sit down is, first of all, whatever. Don't give his name, but you would say Joe. Let's say you have to ask yourself: does this matter to you that Lisa is concerned? If the answer is no, thank you very much. Have a nice day. If he says, oh, no, it does. Great. See, that tells me he's interested. Now, Grok, ChatGPT, OpenAI, may not understand that. The question is, explain your fears. When you have been through something and you don't want to replicate it, it's natural. Does it understand that? Not that it represents, for example, you can watch a dog circle the bed before it sleeps. You don't know why it's doing that. You don't understand because you're not a dog. You just observe a behavior and you think, okay, I understand it. No, you don't. So it doesn't understand this. What about kids who were told by chatbots that they should kill themselves? That here's how to kill yourself. And I'll help you write a suicide note. And hey, listen, is there any, you know where the knife drawer is? You got any matches? Oh, it's dangerous. Yeah. It is dangerous.
It's dangerous, and I found that out. And I wasn't speaking from my heart. I was reading a script, or I had memorized the script. And between Google, AI, and everything, I was just trying to trying to present myself in therapy to the best way, and I just for the most successful outcome, but it backfired, and I just realized this morning, literally 2:30, it hit me. It's like I'm being able to discover this with the brain God gave me. I'm being able
you're
to
looking at this
see a couple
with
of
all
things
due
I
respect. No. With all due respect, you're just showing me your brilliance, because what you did was you took AI and you used AI to determine how inauthentic it is, and you understood what it means to be human. Let me give you an example. I'm a lawyer, and we always talk about could we ever have AI or AGI or something be used in sentencing? It's like, okay, well, let me explain to you this. Let's say we have a woman who was charged, she pleads guilty or was found guilty of murder. And the person that she murders was her trafficker. Or she was a woman who was beaten by her husband over years, and she had to stay with the husband because of children, because of insurance, because of fear, because of whatever it was. And then one day when he was asleep, she snapped. And she had enough. And she said, the only way that I can escape, like a person feels like they're actually a captive or kidnapped, was to kill him. Now, as a human, I'm able to assess this in terms of empathy, not sympathy, but empathy is where I want to put myself in your position. I know something. I also use age, judgment, experience, reading, my religion, whatever it is. I'm throwing into factors, and I may say to AI, yes, I understand that technically speaking, this woman does not have a cognizable defense at law, but you don't understand something. This is the compassion part. Don't you understand what happens? She killed her abuser. She was kidnapped. In her mind, and they would say, no. How do you explain psychosis to an AI? It doesn't understand that. It doesn't get it. So this is the part. This is the thing that human beings have to understand. I'll give you a terrible example. Not terrible, but sometimes, speaking of Asperger's, there are some people who literally, and I use the word correctly because kids are using literally too much. They use literally almost like word hamburger helper. Everything's literal. Anyway, but they used to, sometimes Asperger people would go to movies and they would say, show me how to act when I meet somebody. How do I listen? When do I smile? How do I listen? And do I make eye contact? They actually would watch movies to say, this is called, okay, I got it. Now, try explaining that to an AI program. Can't. It might one day change. I don't know. Because to be human is to be vulnerable and goofy and simpy and weak and beautiful. That's the best part of being, where you cry. Explain it. You think an AI is going to cry at a scene where Lassie comes home? It's like, what? Yeah. It's not going to understand. It's like, cry? What does cry mean? What does lacrimate mean? What does that even mean? Explain emotion. Explain indecision. Explain conflict. You feel conflict. Now, remember, if you want to see what AI is, talk to a psychopath. A psychopath is somebody whose head and heart are disconnected. When you think about something and you think of the consequence, your heart kicks in. Heart is morality. Yeah. For example, you think to yourself, I could take this money from the Sunday collection at church. Nobody will see it, but God, I can't do that. This is a church, and AI doesn't understand that. What does that mean? It's a church. What is it? It doesn't know. Now, psychopath says, I don't know what that means. I just take it. So, Lisa, congratulations. It took AI to teach you what it is to be human in deciding the course of your relationships. You are more aware of humanity.
I hope I can turn the course of things and convince convince this man. And anyways, because I
Now, wait a
I
minute.
really screwed up. I really.
I'm going to
screwed
leave
up.
you one. I'm going to leave you with one story. Wait. I want you
Yeah.
to tell him. You can say, you know what? I'm going to tell you about something, Joe. I want to tell you about somebody a friend of mine who made a big mistake. Blah blah blah. And then you tell your story and you say that friend was me. But I want you to think of the bigger reality. Forget this for a moment. Lisa, relationships should not require convincing. This is not a settlement agreement. This is not, I'm dealing. It should either be something, ideally, that you cannot stop because your emotions and love should be so strong, you'll talk about it. And you can say, yeah, I'm afraid. But it's almost like a parent or somebody who loses a child who says, I never want to have a child again because I don't want to go through the chance of losing a child. That doesn't make any sense. Or
Yeah.
somebody who's, sometimes people will say, I just lost my dog. I never want another dog again. And the best thing to do is to get another dog. Well, the
Yeah.
idea that I don't know him, I don't know if it's all necessarily about not wanting to risk it. Some people figure, look, I like Lisa here, but if I can do it without the risk, and I'm not suggesting that divorce is not painful.
We're not married. We're not married, but we're not married, but we.
I know that.
Yeah. Okay.
But you want to be married. You want to, and he's trying to tell you that the reason why he's not interested is because of his hurt. And you're going to say, Joe, whatever your name is, that worked for a while. I'm not buying that. Now that's Lisa talking. What do you say to that, Joe? You're using that as an excuse. I went through the same thing. Joe, we're not getting younger here. Do you think marriage is just like wearing a ring? There's a lot of economic benefits to it. The GAO, General Accountability, whatever office, said that there's about 1,600 benefits, legal, tax, that only married couples have, that nobody else has from a practical point of view. So anyway, that's my speech. Lisa, I wish you nothing but the best. Okay? And turn off that chat GPT.
Thank you for being there, Lionel. I love you. Thank you.
I'm here. That's right. You see, I am a counselor at law too, an attorney and a counselor. We counsel people. I've seen this before. I know what I'm talking about. And believe it or not, one of the best things you can do is to apply critical thinking to your issue and ask yourself, what's the real deal here? Especially when somebody's giving you an excuse. Listen, anybody who doesn't think that, marriage or divorce, I should say divorce, is not gut wrenching and riveting. And of course people are afraid. Of course people are afraid. How can you not be? I think if you weren't afraid, you'd be crazy. But sometimes you think, that's an excuse. Coming up, we have more to talk about. We have more of the horrors of the world. And I want to talk about also this thing, because let me explain to you what's happening. You may not, this may not be good news for you, but there's a lot of people in the world. There is a new version of conservatism that is really getting a lot of attention. People like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and other people are talking about this. And in addition to the geopolitical considerations, which many people may disagree with, there is a new embrace of fundamental religiosity. And in the case of Candace, she doesn't want to. She is a full-fledged Catholic. And young people are embracing Catholicism and fundamental Christianity and other religions as well. And what is good about that is that you believe in this notion called morality. And what I'm saying right now about embryonic dystopian manipulation and all this jazz has to do also with the word of, as my great friend Father Jim Lloyd would say, Almighty God. He couldn't say God. He was 103, oldest Paulist priest. He would say God. Well, think about that. Because what we're doing right now is we're asking God whether he or she or it objects to us tampering with this fundamental, beautiful, magnificent symphony called life. You dig? More coming up on Another Side of Midnight with me, Lionel. Sing McCollum. If you don't hear Elvis in this or Dwight Yoakam, you're not paying attention. Freddie Mercury. Do you know that Freddie Mercury had, what was it, 2 rows of teeth? He had, I think it was like, I know I'm misquoting this, but he had like an extra row or an extra number of teeth, which may have given him unique mouth placement or whatever. He was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. As are you. 800-848-9222. Let's go back to the phones, back at the fun. By the way, coming up in the final hour, I can't believe we're there yet. I'm going to read for you a description of somebody, and you're going to have to guess who it is. Let's talk to Monty in New Jersey. Monty, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. Love the show.
Hello, Monty.
Can't believe we got through. I hope you will forgive me because I'm all over the place. I'm a scatterbrain. Did you ever see the movie Speak No Evil?
Yes.
About children, what they did with children, what's going on. It could be going on right now where they cut their tongue out. They can't, they kidnap them and they cut their tongue out. You saw the movie?
This is
Man. Yeah,
this is James McAvoy. Okay.
That's it. The music you play is wonderful, like smooth jazz. I think to me, this is just my opinion, good music ended in 1990. I believe everything was great until 1990, and that was it, man.
Monty, I thank you so much, but let me tell you something. I always try my best to realize that everybody has been singing. I'm sure that when people stop with the minuet and after Brahms and Mozart, people say, what is this music? I remember when all of a sudden, before the Beatles, before that, it was Tony Bennett. It was the Four Freshmen. It was, skiffle and lipstick on my collar and that other kind of jazz. I go, what is this Beatles business? So I tell myself that, you know what, I might not have the ear for this. When it comes to a lot of hip hop and prototypical rap, I have no ability whatsoever to glean and to appreciate that. Monty in New Jersey. Monty, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Okay, he's gone. Okay, how about let's go to Goodwin in Maine. Goodwin, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. How you doing?
Good, sir.
Hope you and your family are well.
As I hope the same to you, sir.
Well, I just wanted to call and say I like to listen to you, and that's about it. And hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much. One of the best calls. I appreciate it immensely. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to, is Paul back in Pittsburgh? Paul?
Yes, sir. I just want to bring up several topics, 3, and hear your comments on them.
Just give me one. Just give me one.
Maybe young girls should not study science and math. Maybe that would be good.
Why is that, sir?
And give comments
Why is that
on
good?
that.
Why is that good? Why is that good?
There's enough boys studying science and math.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it. Call me again. If I could take all the time in the world and knew every word in our lexicon, I could not think of any way to explicate, limn, or describe how stupid that was. Words escape me to in any way gauge how inane that comment was. Now, coming up, I want to read you something which is even more fascinating. Where is evil? I know you think serial killers and then, oh, no. The most evil person is the one who is camouflaged, the person who is vaunted. I should say vaunted. What am I trying to say? In society, somebody who is a leader that was never elected. I've got one for you right now you will love. 800-848-9222. More coming up with other fascinating topics on Another Side of Midnight with me Lionel. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, Lionel with you. This is another Side of Midnight. Our number is 800-848-9222. And what a joy, what an honor it is to be here. But let me also say something before we get to the end. I want to thank Jackson and Mr. William Lee, Dr. William Lee the fifth, not the third, not the second, not junior, but the fifth, who are stewarding the helm and actually making all of this happen. We always forget that the people who are responsible are the people who you never see. I can talk all I want. I can do whatever I want and say, but if it doesn't get across, I'm kind of wasting my time. So thanks to these intrepid spirits, as it were, 800-848-9222. What is the scariest thing? Let me rephrase this. If you had to be, I sound like Prince Philip years ago who said this, but if you had to be a disease, what would you be? If you really wanted to be like the serial killer, a really just deceptive, AIDS would be the top of my list. Something like this, kind of a retrovirus, an immune deficiency. And what it does is, it doesn't kill you. It turns off your radar. It turns off your burglar alarm. And when AIDS first came about, remember the first doctors were dermatologists who noticed Kaposi sarcoma and then pneumocystis pneumonia. And they said, wait a minute, we haven't seen a case of this, and what's going on here? And it was the idea that it went and turned off your immune system. So by analogy, what's even more frightening is somebody who turns off your skepticism part. You see, they want to tell you, and you know who they are. They want to tell you to stop being a conspiracy theorist, to stop with this crazy ideas. You're always looking else. Stop it. You're crazy. You're nuts. Let me give you an example. What if I told you this? What if I told you that there was a powerful global figure? And what if that powerful figure, celebrated publicly as some humanitarian genius, unelected, by the way, had spent decades quietly and kind of under the radar funding agricultural experiments and pharmaceutical campaigns and population studies and geoengineering, or chemtrails as you would call them, all across vulnerable, areas of the developing world, not simply to help humanity, as he would say, but to reshape it. And what if the real goal was never just improved crops or preventing some kind of a disease, but control itself? What if it was control over food and control over medicine and control over fertility and life and population growth? And what if the people who questioned these projects were immediately, sound familiar, dismissed as paranoid, anti-science? Where have I heard that? Trust the science. Or dangerous. You're dangerous. Where billions and billions of dollars flowed into genetically modified food systems. You never talk about GMOs. You notice that? How about synthetic biology, mass vaccination programs? And don't worry, they're getting ready for Ebola next. They're not done yet. Remember, monkeypox didn't pick up, hantavirus everywhere anywhere. They're always pushing. More vaccines, more control, more masks, more of everything with no independent oversight. Now imagine this. Imagine there would be a deadly viral outbreak that emerges again. Just imagine this, okay? Governments are going to panic. Media, the usual suspects, go berserk. They flood the public with fear because their numbers go up, and they're told to do this. Then emergency powers return overnight. Because remember, everything that we've done before is a beta test, kind of a dry run for this. But behind the scenes, instead of, now listen, strict, what would you call it, containment, what if infected, very contagious individuals are quietly moved and relocated or released into general populations, broader populations? Why? Under the justification of humanitarian necessity. We have to do this. Now think about this. They're human missiles. Why? Because fear creates compliance. We learned this before. And there's nothing that I would love if I were a member of the shadow government than chaos, because chaos creates dependence. This is the Hegelian dialectic. This is problem, reaction, solution, or thesis, antithesis, synthesis. This is create a situation, create a problem, watch people react, and then they'll say, please fix this. Okay, we'll fix it. See, pandemics create opportunities that no election, no war could ever do. What if sterilization was never carried out through, dramatic science fiction, death rays or poison or something, but slowly, subtly, sterilization through long-term exposure to altered food systems, hormonal disruption, plastics everywhere, experimental injections, engineered environmental factors that nobody really understood. Would anyone even notice until birth rates collapsed? And before you dismiss this as a possibility, ask yourself something very, very simple. Listen to me. Has history not already shown us governments experimenting on populations without consent? Does that sound familiar? Have big tech and pharmaceutical companies not concealed dangers? We were a country that actually said you can go ahead and by congressional fiat, by congressional rule, by legislation, grant immunity from big tech companies for putting out vaccines that weren't tested yet. Think about what we did. And nobody batted an eye. Nobody. Have intelligence agencies, Intel, have they not conducted covert biological and psychological operations, or PSYOPs? Listen to this, the new wealthy elites, because let me tell you something, the folks, the Palantirs and others and the Gateses, and they are richer than anything anybody's ever seen. When you go to Newport and you see the cottages or whatever they're called, but stop it. Mellon, all those people, that's chump change. These people are incredible. These people, they always talk about sustainability and population management. And what they're doing is they're trying to reduce humanity's carbon footprint. So is this possible? Or is it just kind of merely uncomfortable? You see, when I ask questions like that, I'm always told I'm some kind of a nut. You don't think that, do you? I'm crazy. That wouldn't happen. How many times do you have to have something happen to you before you realize absolutely? The saddest part, Mr. Lee, another code, my friend. I learned a long time ago. This is very, very important. I learned a long time ago that if you just pay attention, the bad people, the bad guys are not necessarily what you think. Sometimes the things that are the most dangerous are, well, sometimes the things that feel the best, that taste the best. Some of the deadliest foods available are the stuff that tastes the best. Funny how that works, isn't it? Now, remember something. A couple of years ago, people who thought like I did, and you did, and I know you think like this, we were laughed at. Laughed at. Something happened recently. Something. It was either the Epstein files or talk about the JFK files or the UFO files or the UAP files or all these files. Something happened. Something. And what used to be called crazy isn't crazy anymore. Remember this. When the Epstein files came out, remember all of a sudden there was this thing called Pizzagate. Remember that? They laughed at that. You're crazy. You're nuts. You're out of your mind. This is what you were told. Remember that? Well, this time around, it's the same information. You say, you know what? Wait a minute. I think you're onto something. It's like, I know. What changed? Because you didn't know anything. See, they want you just to learn through this obeisance. They want you just to nod your head. And what they do is they give you little bits of information, little dribs and drabs. Mr. Lee, you know what I would love? A code from above that allows me access to our shared data source, if you know what I mean, sir. Now, I knew this a long time ago. I learned this when I was 5 years old and Kennedy was killed, all the way through 9/11, all the way through everything. I learned it through Vietnam. I learned it and I never forgot. And everybody's been telling me, you're crazy. Do you remember when they said the Gulf of Tonkin? Remember this? The Gulf of Tonkin was nuts. What do you mean? You think we imagined this? We created the Vietnam War? You think Johnson created that? Yes! Yes! And guess what happened? It was released via NSA. It was the most incredible thing anybody's ever seen. So just think about what I'm saying. Just think about what I'm saying. That's all. Our number 800-848-9222. Carl in New Jersey. Carl, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All I have to say is that the only explanation for Joe Zawinul is either he was an alien,
yes,
or he was abducted by aliens.
Yes,
and he learned their music.
He was incredible. He was that really tough. What was he, Austrian or something? He was really tough. He wore that wool cap. He's a tough son of a gun.
Polish.
I think he was, but he was. Yes, but he played, Zawinul played with everybody. He was, and by the way, Jaco Pastorius just changed everything. Joe Zawinul, by the way, he was Austrian, yes, Austrian, and he played with Cannonball Adderley, Miles Davis, and by the by, I don't know if you care about this, but I was very good friends with Cannonball's brother. They were born in Tampa, Nat Adderley, who lived, I knew him very, very well. And oh, yes. Nat Adderley was the quintessential jazz man. His answering machine, he actually had the old-fashioned answering machine. This was the message. Beep. Okay. All right. Beep. That was it. That's how That was my friend Jerry Wexler, by the way, also introduced me to a whole nother group of those people were, I think, all from another planet.
I think so. Did you ever see Weather Report in concert?
Carl, I did not, and I wish I did. My friend, I thank you so much. Oh, yeah. Is that sack of wool, Mr. Lee? Oh, mercy. Sack of wool is also a very, very. By the way, my friends, did you catch this story? I hope you did, because if you didn't, you're missing one of the greatest stories ever. And I want to provide this to you because you're smart and can handle it. Remember the case of Admiral Harwood and his neck, the mask? Do you believe that Joe Biden ever wore a mask? Have you seen these Intel masks that are available for people? Have you seen the genius of the mask? Well, during a Fox remote interview about Iran ceasefire reports, viewers spotted a shadow. And put it this way, if you don't know this story, you've been watching cable news for too long. Because they're not going to, they kind of talked about it, but not really. Because the last thing in the world you want to do is call out the obvious. But they noticed this shadow on Harwood's neck. And it inspired a lot of online, theories and guesswork of a hyper-realistic mask or some impersonator. So Fox News, of course, because they would always tell you the truth, blamed lighting from a vendor's mobile camera. And fact checkers confirmed, of course, that the clip was real and unedited. So there was apparently a host on Real America's Voice. They're a bit more feisty. Grant Stinchfield pressed Harwood to give a tug, but the 69-year-old SEAL veteran shut it down. And he redirected to warnings about Iran's nuclear stalling tactics. Now, don't you think it would make sense for you to question whether he had a mask? Don't you think? Now, if you don't think this is possible, if you don't think that you can actually do this, you're not paying attention. Many people have sworn that Joe Biden was wearing some type of a device or something to fool people. Remember something. If I told you, and listen to me carefully, if I said to you, hey, listen, I think you're a giraffe. What? I think you're a giraffe. I'm not a giraffe. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. That's crazy. And then you go and prove it. I don't know how you prove it. Versus, I don't want to talk about that. What does that mean? I don't want to talk about that. Remember something. You only take flack when you're over the target. And you also understand something. If you're on cable news today, you realize that your days are numbered. One way or another, you see what's happening. Newsrooms are shuttered. They are closing down. AI and all these. So the last thing in the world, and they're also watching CBS, and especially with Barry Weiss, how she is just destroying that, which is good. So they have kind of, I'm sure they don't have it in memo form, but they will say unofficially, if somebody from the government says that the sky is pink, you agree. Do not put up a fight. Do you know what's happened, by the way? MSDNC, they are irrelevant. I think they're in a closet somewhere, and I don't even know where their office is. They're just gone. MS Now, they're just gone. Just never hear from them. Remember Morning Joe? Remember that relic? And now CNN is barely hanging on to something. Just, it's the most incredible stories. It's so they are repeaters and not reporters. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Sharon in Illinois. Sharon, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, let me take you off speaker real quick.
Oh boy.
Hi, can you hear
Thank
me?
you. Do I fear you?
Okay. You know, because I took you off speaker.
Okay.
Anyway, I wanted to, I don't know if Mark from Aurora is still listening, but I wanted to maybe use you as a conduit to relay a message for him to Raleigh James, because they won't take my
Okay,
phone
Sharon.
call.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you so much. I don't know what this Raleigh James, every week there's this Raleigh James. I have no idea what this is about. But how do I say this? It's old. I love a bit until it gets old. Benny in Bayside. Benny's never old. He's always fresh and vibrant. Benny, you are next, my friend.
Anyways, Raleigh, Baba Booey. No, I'm only joking. Can you hear me? Anyways,
yes, I
it's
do.
30
Yes,
past the hour. You forgot to say that.
Well, you're doing it all. You are just Benny. You are on fire tonight, my friend.
Anyways, actually, my father was in Vietnam, and what was it? About 7 years ago, he committed suicide due to Vietnam, and I would never make S like that up. He was going through really bad things, like how he saw like villages just disappear. Anyways, not to dwell on that. That was PSD is it was a horrible thing to go through with him. I begged him, like, please, let's go get help. Nobody knows what I went through. I go, oh yeah, you're the only one, Dad. And all that garbage. Anyways,
well, listen, he handled that in his own way. Sad to say, he could have used help, but listen, I can't even imagine what somebody so young, and to think how it affected him for the rest of his life. It just didn't go away. It's a permanent scar that you can't see. All right, my friend. Anything else there, Benny?
On with genetics, rather. Back in the 70s, when we grew a bird for a chicken for market, it took 65 days. Today, it only takes 45 days. Why?
Correct.
Because it's pumped up with hormones and antibiotics and steroids and everything else. Now, you don't think that's a link to all the autism and kids on the spectrum? Now, back in the 80s, you know.
I don't know. We don't know that. We don't know that, but I will tell you this. They believe, very frankly, that a lot of these girls are starting their periods and are menstruating earlier. Menarche is onset by virtue of the fact that these hormones, because when you have, there is no such thing as a 5-pound chicken breast. It doesn't make any sense. The turkeys that are just gargantuan. It doesn't make, and it's obvious. Yes, but it's also recombinant. There's also DNA and the antibiotics, and everybody knows this. Hey, Benny, I thank you, my friend. Especially, I love all my friends who are, they're great. They're meat eaters. God bless you, and they love to make fun of plant-based or non-meat. And I said, do you know what's in this meat? It doesn't matter. Really? They have no idea. But they started this idea that you must embrace meat. I said, let me tell you something. I don't know what the government has to tell you regarding processed foods, bacon, nitrates, nitrosamines. I don't know what they have. I don't know what they have to tell you. I don't know what people are not paying attention to. But there's this idea that it doesn't even matter. that it does not matter. Let me talk about GMO foods. Do you know that kids today may never, ever, ever come into contact with real non-GMO wheat, non-GMO sugar, non-GMO soy, non-GMO, and by the soy is everything, non-GMO, wheat, soy, sugar through beets, corn. Oh, corn. Oh, what am I saying? They never have, that your body says, what is this? What is this? I don't know. Looks like corn. Looks like corn. How about BT? BT corn. I always think of the BT cake or BT corn. This is a corn, a GMO corn that is developed that expresses a natural insecticide. Think about that. It's just the most thing, and nobody says anything. In fact, in California, they wanted to pass a law that just says, just identify when foods are genetically modified. That's all. Just a labeling. If you want to use it, go ahead. Terrific. Oh, no. Oh, no. There is this little street. It's not a street fair, but there's this thing in our neighborhood on the west side. And every year, I haven't seen them lately, but these folks come from, I don't know where, in South America or Central America. I don't know. But they're obviously authentic. And they serve food and they put their local stuff to raise money for their church. And one day, I love corn. And Jersey corn is terrific, but even that, sometimes that's GMO as well. But anyway, it's got to be because anyway. So I noticed this woman, she has this, I get Mayan, Incan, Aztec, I get them all confused, but they got the little hat and the Bolivian look, very, very colorful. And I said, what is this? And there was corn, varieties of corn in colors, shapes, kernels that looked like, I said, what is this? This was indigenous corn to their country. Might have been even illegal. I have no idea. I never saw it. I never saw anything like this. And what happens is you want heterogeneity. God wants food to be plentiful, not pluripotent, but of varieties. And it is I looked at that thinking, oh my God, it's the most incredible stuff. It tasted so great. And what people do is what they are eating. It's the most, it blows my mind. I don't want to get into this because whenever you talk about this, people are very, very serious about what they eat. And they swear that what they're doing is right because there's no rudimentary. If you went to your doctor, think about this. If you said, Doc, do me a favor. What's the matter? Nothing's the matter. What should I eat? And the doctor, your doctor, I don't care where you go. You pick the hospital, you pick it. I don't care. Anywhere in New York, anywhere. The best of the best of the best. And they'll look at you and they say, what do you mean, what do I eat? I don't know. Eat, moderation, kind of balance. And say, what? They have no clue. Do you ever look at doctors who themselves are overweight? It's like they miss that. They're great at what they do. Oh, surgery, drugs, antibiotics, treatments, you name it. And when it comes to plastic surgery, forget it. But food, not a clue. Not a clue. It's the most incredible thing in the world. And if I had my way, I would go right into the urban areas, African American, Latino areas, poor, and I would have a government program. That's right, government, you know it, where I would make fresh vegetables, fruits, nuts, whatever, and meat if you want. Oh, by the way, I love when people say, but it's, what is it? It's not farm. It's naturally, not naturally grazed. What do you call it when it open? Anyway, it's not confined to grain fed versus it's meat. You're injecting it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, But if I could lower BMIs, body mass index, by 10%, just that's a dent in an area I could reduce across the board. Listen, black brothers and sisters, listen to me. I could reduce renal failure, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, just name it, hepatic, blood pressure, hypertension, name it, by just playing with diet, nothing else. No medication, no exercise, nothing. Just diet alone. But they don't want to do that. Why do you think that is? Do you want me to get really dark? No pun intended. You want me to get dark? If I didn't know better, years ago, people would say, I think the CIA might have been responsible for flooding our cities with cocaine and crack. I can't argue that point. Don't forget the Mena, Arkansas findings. But it wouldn't surprise me. But what if somebody said there's another form of kind of an urban, I don't want to use the word genocide because the word is used with such frequency that we've become immune to it. But if I wanted to target a particular group of people, what I would do is I would remove any ability they have. I would make fresh foods and organic stuff very expensive, but I would give them all the processed foods and the chips and the sugary drinks and the knee-high and the soda and the greasy stuff in bags and chips and that would be, and that's exactly what's going on right now. Look at this. And when I talk about obesity, I'm not talking about it in terms of any kind of a cosmetic, aesthetic look. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about how it affects people's health. And we're the only animal in the world who still doesn't know how to eat. We still don't know, because if it tastes good, we're there. That's enough of my lecturing. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn. Robert, you're on another side of midnight.
Long time no see. I heard about the in the beginning you were speaking about the World Cup soccer, right?
Yes, sir.
And this might sound crazy, but it's on my make sense, right? When you said the date, June 11th, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, wait a minute. The first thing that popped in my mind was 9/11. I said, why is that? I don't know. So you know what I did? The June is the 6th month of the year. So I went with 6/11. I turned the 6 upside down, and I got 9/11. I don't know.
And if you turn the 11 upside down, you still got 11. How about that? What does that tell you?
I like that. I got to give it to you on point. And that came to my mind because there's going to be a lot of people there. Remember, the World Trade was a lot of people there also. And you're right, anything could happen. The kids, and you got to be on point. Got to be very careful. I won't take my kids if I had kids.
Robert, let me tell you something. I thank you so much for your call. Thank you for your sagacity, and thank you for your alertness. Interesting. Numerology, numbers, I don't know. The only one thing that means, the only numbers is 1111. 1111 to me has always been you have no idea how many times whenever I look up at a clock, of course digital, it's 1111. And they say that's a spiritual, lucky, whatever it is. Do you know, by the way, a friend of mine is a elementary school teacher. Do you know that kids today don't know how to read analog clocks? Did you know that? Think I'm exaggerating? Do you? Let's go to Mark in Illinois. Mark, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, Lionel, how you doing tonight?
Good, sir.
Yeah, earlier, I know you talk so many things. My mind is listening to you. I want to do something else. But anyway, we were talking about the Pizzagate. This seems like right is wrong and wrong is right. Like the world is expanding, like from the Big Bang Theory, everything's going out. It seems like everything's accelerating, you know what I mean?
It is.
So,
Hubble was right, yeah.
It is. It's like we're accelerating. So, 100 years ago, they hardly did anything. Now it's just, everything's like fast-paced and, computers and all that stuff. What I'm trying to say, I'm not a professional broadcaster, so I'm trying to say is, the guy wrote a book like 2,000 years ago. He was on this Isle of Pappas, and he was seeing these visions. And it seems like this stuff, you can't, years ago, a credit card is like, eventually they're getting rid of money. You know what I mean? It's like
That's exactly
everything's
right.
expanding.
Mark, I thank you so much for your call, and I appreciate that what you said is absolutely correct. You yourself covered a number of topics. By the way, remember the CBDC, central bank digital currency. You do not want this under any stretch of the imagination. It's not the fact that money is digital. That's not the problem. It's the fact that your money is being controlled. Everything that you do, where you use it. And by the way, it'll be used in connection with social credit scores. Imagine one day you live in a world, as in China, where one day you're caught speeding, or you have a DUI, or you're jaywalking, or you do something, whatever it is. We're not talking murder. We're talking relatively minor indiscretions. And then one day, from your central bank digital currency account, you're docked a certain amount of money automatically as a penalty for whatever it is that you did. If your social credit score drops to a certain level, you will not be able to avail yourself of public transportation, to hold office, vending machines, to travel. And then other people will likewise have a basis of ostracism. It is going to happen like you cannot believe. And when you tell people this, as usual, people will say, oh, come on. Oh, come on. You see what I'm saying? Just people don't like to hear anything which is scary to them. And all of this can be done by exposure, by having hearings. You'll never hear this on cable news. Never. You ever hear this? You might have it's the usual, the other day I thought to myself, there was a very interesting topic. And it was interesting. It was Newt Gingrich discussing, he said, I think it was a mistake to impeach Clinton. And I thought to myself, what in the hell is he talking about this now for? I mean, yeah, it's interesting, but what? Bill Clinton? I mean, my God. I want to say this with all due respect. Reagan is dead. The 80s are over. I loved Rush Limbaugh. I knew him and worked with him, but that was then. Those issues, many of them might certainly be relevant and are, but what we're facing right now, Rush, Reagan never, ever, even remotely confronted. And how could they? These are newer. We have different levels of observation. You know what it's like in a weird way? In the old days, we had plain old medicine. You go to the doctor, and then you got your pediatrician. And then we got into stuff like naturopathic, and then homeopathic, and homeopathy, and you had alternative medicine, and then you had kind of Eastern, and then you had people who kind of got into different things too, where we worked into exercise, and then things like Pilates and stretching and meditation, and things just expanded, all under the rubric, all under the guise, all under the heading of health. Well, news today, what is news? Remember, the stuff that is going to hurt you, the stuff that is embarrassing, the stuff that your government does not want you to know, and this is irrespective of who the president is never going to be talked about in open public. They're not going to do it. They don't. And there's something which is the most critical. This is the most critical thing in the world. And if ever tonight, it's morning, I don't know if we're morning or night, I have no idea, but there is something which is so important and so critical. And I want you to listen specifically. I want you to grasp the idea of this thing called limited hangout. What is it? What is the definition? And I want you to listen like you've never listened before, because Nixon mentioned this in the Watergate hearing and the tapes. A limited hangout. This is an intel term. Also, PR does it. And it describes a particular strategy or an operation where, let's say, an organization or a government or an office or some party or somebody partially admits some wrongdoing or crime or something and releases selective partial truth in order to hide something even bigger. So they'll give you a little bit of a story and you'll say, yep, that's it. The idea is simple. When they know something has to be exposed, they know it. Let's say the Epstein case or UFOs or UAPs or JFK. They'll sacrifice a smaller piece of information to protect the big secret. So instead of full transparency, what you get is a controlled confession, a narrow admission, a scandal that's managed. Look at Epstein; it's perfect. And the phrases they use it, the Cold War, Watergate. I think who was it? Nixon, Ehrlichman called it a modified limited hangout. I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a corporation, and the corporation is causing toxic chemicals. Remember East Palestine? Remember that one? Remember the chemicals in the water? And whatever happened with that? I don't know. Remember Booty Giggity Giggity? Remember him? I don't know. So let's say they have there's some tanker toxic spill, whatever it is. Rather than denying everything, it admits to, let's say, minor safety violations or something lesser, while concealing years of, let's say, deliberate contamination or negligence. So the limited admission kind of redirects your anger or your outrage and creates the appearance of honesty. They came forward. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Look at what the biggest scam in the world. The issue about Epstein and UAPs and the RFK and JFK and all these other files is that they don't give you anything. They talk about it. It's you blame something else. Pam Bondi is coming back despite her thyroid cancer. Hope she does well, of course. But they bring her back and they talk about it. And then she says, I hope Ghislaine Maxwell gets life or rots in jail. How's she going to get life? She's got, 20 years? What are you talking about? They talk about it. They release little things. They have hearings and they'll have some files and you'll see nothing happens. You think they release them. They didn't release anything. Same thing with the UAP stuff. Nothing. They've talked about it. They have Elizondo on. They'll have people on. They'll have various. There's some guy on who I don't want to say it, but he's on another news network that nobody watches. This guy doesn't say anything, but because he has a British or an Australian accent, people listen to him. He doesn't say anything. Nothing. They tell you nothing. They never want you to know anything about this. And you will swear that they released something. They didn't release anything. That is a limited hangout. Or they'll have a file here or a picture. How many times have you seen that Tic Tac gun turret camera or the gimbal? You've seen it a million times. And they'll keep showing it to you. Newly recovered. Here's some interesting photo. What does this mean? Another blurry photo? This is a limited hangout. It is so old. Now, if you didn't know that, do you think a cable news company is going to tell you that? The first thing they're going to do is they're going to get a call from their CIA liaison and says, who is the brain surgeon who is telling people what we do? Don't ever say that again. Or we're going to cut you off. Think about that. Now that you know this, you're going to notice it everywhere. They give you a little bit of information, but they don't tell you enough. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. Alrighty, Lionel with you, asking you to think this way, not walk this way, think this way. On another side of midnight. Let's see. Let's go to the callers that we have. I've been remiss in not going earlier. Let's go to Frost. Frost, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel. Frost once. I hear you. I know you're there. Alrighty. Let's go to Richard instead. Richard, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, Lionel. Calling from Yakima, Washington.
I'm sorry to hear that.
You were talking about COVID and Biden, and I watched.
Yes.
I watched him take the shot on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there was anything but saline in that syringe? Do you think they were going to risk going into shock on TV?
Remember this one woman? She was like that. She took the first mRNA and she passed out. Like, I mean, I don't think it was that, but it's. Are you kidding? Absolutely not. Do you know how many fake cards there were and how many people? I mean, listen, let me tell you something. That was a beta test. Now, let me say something. I am not saying there was no such thing as COVID. I am not saying there was no, I am not, that's SARS-CoV-2. I'm not saying that. That doesn't matter. The vaccine is a different story, but I hope that we learn. Thank you for that. Let's go to Bob. Bob, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel. Bob, I know you're there. Bob, you sound like you're being smothered and by a pillow. All righty. Let's go to Chuck, I believe. Chuck, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel. All righty. Okie doke. The best laid plans of mice and men. I want to go back to something which is also, in fact, we'll pick it up tomorrow because I absolutely love this story. Remember something, and I want you to listen to me very carefully. Fear is the most wonderful paralytic there is. Fear. Whenever you try to convey the idea of something, what is a greater motivator? When your parents told you, make sure you come home early, don't stay out late, be careful. What did they always tell you? The boogeyman. The boogeyman today has been replaced by more boogeymen and boogie nights, for that matter, than you could possibly imagine. Understand, everything comes down to psychology. Everything comes down to psychology. And let me just tell you something. If you really want to get scared, all you have to do is look what's going on in our country, under your nose. Not by people who are necessarily out to try to hurt you, but people who, by virtue of laziness or negligence or ineptitude, kind of let misinformation kind of become part of the way we think. Mr. Lee and Jackson, thank you so much on behalf of a grateful nation. We thank you for your work. And thank you, dear, dear friends. You can follow me on YouTube at Lionel Nation and on Twitter or X at Lionel Media. See you tomorrow, my friends. And don't forget, the monkey's dead. Show's over. Sue ya. Ta-ta.